Trudeau doesn't come to Alberta where all the farmers are, where we grow all your food, because you won't get a warm reception from us. And so they say they're talking to farmers, but this is like a farming association. It's not actual farmers. It's like the trucking association isn't actually reflective of truckers. It's the lobby group. So he goes to this agricultural lobby group, and he says some stupid things. So first off, maybe we'll talk about the one that I alluded to at the very beginning about somebody asked him about supply management, or maybe it wasn't even about supply management, but he responded about supply management because he's an idiot. And it's funny because he couldn't even mention Donald Trump's name.
Puis là, je regarde aller la gestion de l'offre, puis on en perd tout le temps. Puis là, on a tous les coups qui embarquent avec ce qui arrive avec l'Ukraine. Puis là, je me dis, est-ce que je suis intéressé à encourager ma relève à continuer ce que je fais? Parce qu'on perd tout le temps des plumes dans la gestion de l'offre. J'aimerais avoir votre point de vue. Qu'est-ce que vous pouvez faire pour nous aider pour que je sois encouragé à ma relève? Oui, on y va.
Écoute, au niveau de la gestion de l'offre, on a eu à défendre la gestion de l'offre de façon extrêmement sérieuse contre un président américain, l'ancien, je ne veux pas mentionner son nom, qui voulait l'éliminer. Il s'était donné comme but de s'attaquer directement et de changer le système canadien pour qu'on n'ait plus de gestion de l'offre. Évidemment, les Américains, tout le monde soutient leurs agriculteurs de différentes façons. Eux, ils le font avec des subventions massives. Nous, on a choisi de créer un système de gestion de l'offre parce que ça donne la stabilité, ça offre la prévisibilité et c'est quelque chose qu'on a su défendre contre un président américain qui était parmi les plus protectionnistes qu'on aurait pu jamais voir.
So Sheila, if I may wade in right off the bat, because this is a subject I actually know a lot about. Once upon a time, I was with a trade magazine that covered the hotel and restaurant scene. I spent about 6 months of my life, this is back in 1993, doing research on supply management. Why so long? Well, this is pre-internet, so I actually had to go to the Toronto Reference Library and go through microfiche. Oh my God, Sheila, the kids today have no idea how good they have it with the Googler machine. But basically, it was to find out the origin of supply management, which dates back to the early 70s. Now, who was the Prime Minister of Canada in the early 70s? Well, that would be, shockers, Pierre Elliott Trudeau, the alleged father of Justin Trudeau. And essentially, supply management affects 4 commodities in Canada, primarily dairy and chicken, but also turkey and eggs. And it is, when you drill down, it gets very technical, but basically it's this. It's like a Soviet economic system. It is giving out quota, and those who have quota, and by the way, some of the people who have quota, Sheila, are not dairy farmers or chicken farmers. They're Bay Street investment people. They're lawyers. And without quota, you cannot get into those 4 commodities. I should tell you, Sheila, I don't know if you know this, but in the early 70s, when supply management was first being rolled out, it was such a disaster that there were actually Kentucky Fried Chicken restaurants closing early because they had no chicken. Imagine that. The name of your commodity, chicken, is right in your trademark name, and you have no chicken to sell, so we may as well lock the doors. How he's blaming Donald Trump, who subscribes to a free market economy, is beyond me. And by the way, in case you think I'm beating up on the farmers, I urge our viewers, if you haven't seen it, it went viral. It was that farmer in the Niagara region that posted a social media video of him pouring thousands of liters of milk down the drain because he simply did not have the quota. So instead of donating it to a food bank, instead of giving this to maybe a single mom trying to make ends meet, that is verboten in Justin Trudeau's Canada. So it goes down the drain. Your thought, Sheila?
There's a way, by the way, for anybody who argues with me and says, oh, Sheila, the Americans are subsidizing their agriculture industry. Yeah, they do. But they also subsidize everything. They subsidize corn. We don't have supply management in Canada for corn. They subsidize their pork and their beef producers. We don't have that here. Isn't it interesting? And I think this is based on where the farmers are, by the way, that we subsidize milk, but we don't subsidize beef.
Yeah.
Because guess where the majority of the milk producers are in this country? In the East. And the majority of the beef producers are out here in the West. If we can make a go of it in the open market as price takers, by the way, against a subsidized American market as beef producers, then surely our milk producers can do it. And it limits innovation, by the way. So you go across the border into the United States, or you go to Europe, and you're like, holy cow, look at all the crazy kinds of cheese here.
Yes.
And it's not outrageously expensive for all these like artisan styles of cheese. And it's because you can't do that here. They have these boutique farms that produce boutique cheeses. And it's not out of the range of the average person to go and buy. We are prohibited from doing that here because you can't have a boutique farm. You have to have a massive farm because that's the only way your quota makes sense.
Sheila, if I may weigh in.
Our pork, by the way, our pork producers also, they compete on the open market as price takers, not price setters, against highly subsidized industries around the world. This is protectionist for a certain subset of farmers that exist largely in the East. Now, don't get me wrong, Western farmers, there are some milk producers out here who benefit from it, but this can be unraveled. And Australia did it in 2000. And they introduced, their quota system was far more entrenched than ours. They introduced theirs in the 1920s. They unraveled it in 2000. Farmers haven't suffered. They have more farmers now than they did when they unraveled the quota system. And the price to the consumer dropped, guess what? 30%. Wouldn't that be great in an inflationary crisis?
Oh, 100%, Sheila. And what you said about artisan cheeses, I remember back when it was still being published, Saturday Night Magazine, they had a fascinating feature, and it was about how, yes, in Ontario and Quebec, you can go to some dairy farms, and it's almost like buying, well, back then, because it wasn't legal yet, marijuana. So you go to the farmer and go, do you have any of that, good stuff? And he'll eye you down and he'll figure out if you're a narc or not. And it's basically under the counter because they don't have the quota to have these fantastic artisan cheeses. So you see what's happening, Sheila? It's actually stifling the creativity of the dairy industry because it's based on quota. And one last thing, I think I've mentioned this anecdote before. When I was doing my research, I don't think it made the final cut of my story, but there was a chicken farm in southern Ontario, and basically they were going to grow organic free-range chickens.
Yep.
Every single ounce, Sheila, was going to be destined for U.S. export. So in other words, it was not going to affect the Canadian market one iota. They went to the board, denied. Even though, because you don't have the quota, rules are rules, no flexibility. So even though this would have created jobs, this would have created economic wealth, this would not have affected the chicken market one iota, they could not grow this product exclusively for export south of the border. This is an outrageous system. But we all know, in terms of politics, not only does Trudeau Jr. Support it, we saw that unbelievable video of Andrew Scheer back in the day when he won the top job at the Conservative Party, drinking that carton of milk, because that was the difference on the 13th ballot by less than 1% of Mr. Scheer defeating Maxime Bernier. It was the dairy farmers that came en masse to, tweak the vote. Like I said, less than 1%. And do we have that? There you go. Glug, 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 glug. Talk about getting a finger poked in your eye. I wonder, Sheila, had Maxime Bernier won, and it was that close, it was literally a photo finish, do you think things might have been different, say in the 2019 election?
I'm not sure. I think Justin Trudeau would not have been able to get away with all the things that he had done, because he would have had an effective opposition during the time when those other two wet blankets were in charge of the party. And it probably would have led the Conservative provincial governments in the right direction. They would have felt emboldened and empowered to stand up, because someone would actually be saying things that are mainstream Conservative ideas. For example, on this issue of supply management, I think at the Conservative leadership last time around, there was only one candidate that was, and it might have been two, but I know for sure one that was vocally against supply management. That was it. The party is fully entrenched in this Soviet style management. And I get that Canadian farmers benefit from this, but it is not a Conservative principle to hold marketing boards, to force farmers to sell their product to a marketing board instead of to whomever they wanted. It's why I was against the wheat board. And some farmers said, yeah, let's keep the wheat board because it inflates our prices and it takes the marketing issues off our hand. But if you're a person, you should not be a slave. If you're an entrepreneur, you should never be a slave to a marketing board, because at the end of the wheat board, I can sell my wheat to whomever I want. But dairy farmers, even the freedom-minded ones who are forced to work within a quota system, if you walk up to their farm, it is illegal for them to sell you milk, especially raw milk. They just can't. That's wrong.
Oh, raw milk. You'll go to jail for that in this country,
Straight
Sheila.
to the slammer.
And I'm not kidding. But you know what? But this is a creation of politics, supply management.
Yeah.
And I just think it's so sad that going back to 2018, when the Conservatives had their convention, that Maxime Bernier took a principled and moral stance to dismantle or at least reform this Soviet-style marketing system. Andrew Scheer reached out to the dairy farmers. I got your back. And that's what moved the dial ever so slightly. And we ended up with, I know Andrew Scheer's a nice guy, but an ineffective leader. And I just wonder how things might have been so radically different going back 4 years ago had Maxime Bernier won. And this looks like the wedge issue that cost him. And I think it's sad because he was right, Scheer was wrong.
Well, and also, you see people who say, like, we can't let American dairy into Canada because it contains growth hormones. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. By the way, if you're worried about the hormones in your food, maybe put away your soy milk latte and your cabbage and all those sorts of things that actually have estrogen mimicking chemicals in them. But yeah, American dairy has no more hormones in it than Canadian dairy does. So, I mean, it's just nonsensical. But the only way you can get around this is with disinformation.
So suddenly they're concerned about estrogen in the milk. And yet the latest on Bussy Lemieux, he's saying that his Z-cup breasts are not fake. They are real. He had a growth spurt when he was 39, and those are real mammalian glands because of estrogen, evidently. And we have to protect him.
Yeah.
Where exactly are we on the estrogen file, Sheila?
Do you know what? By the way, if you're concerned about hormones in your food, why are you drinking the expression of the mammary glands of a bovine? They require prolactin to produce milk. It's so unscientific. It's nonsensical. I think only 20% of American dairy farmers even remotely use the synthetic form of prolactin, I think it is, and it's identical to the naturally occurring form. It's just so stupid, but it has to be nonsensical and made up to justify forcing struggling Canadians to pay more for their staples of their diet in these protectionist nonsensical policies.
Well, having said that, I think we should go to our next advertisement. Efren's getting very strict about that, and you don't want to get on the wrong side of super producer Efren. And we'll come back with some more interesting content. Maybe, how about that? Our great colleague Alexa yelling questions to Justin Trudeau, not because she's mad at him, but that's the only way we get to ask the Prime Minister
standing up for Alberta
as he's
farmers,
running away into the wind, right?
Yeah.
So we'll be right back after this ad, folks. Alexa yelled some questions to Justin Trudeau. What was she asking about? Well, it had something to do with farming, I believe. Why don't we roll that clip and check it out?
Hot water, especially with the China influence on the previous election, the disagreement of many from the verdict of the invocation of the Emergencies Act, the inaction from his liberal government with the illegal immigration at Roxham Road, and so on. So I'm just going to try to catch Mr. Trudeau to ask him a couple of questions about the farmer problematic. Let's check it out. Monsieur Trudeau, allez-vous aller en Alberta rencontrer les fermiers là-bas aussi?
Yeah, and right into the sunset, there go those EV Teslas. Oh, what am I saying? No, the Chevy Suburbans using fossil fuels, 8-cylinder engine, which never gets turned off winter or summer because, God forbid, blackface gets into an SUV that's not air conditioned or heated, depending on the season. But again, what a coward. He just will not answer our questions, will he, Sheila?
No. The only farmers he talks to are the ones from the lobby group, right? Like he won't actually go talk to real life agricultural producers who are being hammered on their input costs because of the nitrogen tariffs or the fertilizer tariffs, Justin Trudeau's proposed nitrogen reductions, his carbon tax, which hits all the inputs along the way. Even though they say, we don't tax farm fuel. Yeah, but there's other things. Like this is the only power and energy that we use as farmers. So shipping costs, all those things. Like he won't talk to real life farmers. He'll only talk to these hand selected ones at this town hall at the lobby group. But I think this leads into the next thing that I wanted to talk about.
Oh, and Sheila, before you do, you can see the clip. This is when you know Justin Trudeau is speaking to, say, a blue-collar audience or an outdoorsy audience.
Or what he thinks is. Because I think these are lobbyists. But
as you can see, he's lost his jacket, he's loosened his tie, and he's rolled up his shirt sleeves. You see, I'm like you, folks. Acting!
No, that's totally what my husband looks like when he's out there on the Kubota. He just looks like this. The back of his hair always makes me angry, and I don't know why. It's just that stupid. It sits in his collar. It should have made me angry, but there's so much about him that just annoys, like everything. His affect, how he's using his hand there, that just I can't.